you, it is the Lowdown. I'm going to apologize if that happens and I start coughing. I got some tickle in my throat I can't get rid of. And when you're talking by yourself, there's nowhere to hide. So no cough button, no nothing. But hopefully this goes well. Want to say click the like and subscribe button. That helps us out. And click the notification button. It lets you know anytime one of these gets posted. I do come back every morning that this is posted and run the weather algorithm and tell you what it's telling you to do, or at least where it's leaning. I always call it a lean because I'm not going to just look at it and blindly go, yeah, I'm taking this. I still want to see what's going on. I want to see where the money's going. I want to look at the matchup a little deeper, or the bullpen's toasted. All these things that I think do help throughout baseball season if you're willing to put in the work. That being said, I did have a winning day yesterday. The WNBA was not kind to me. I hit my top 2 plays, and it's funny because I had the A's over as my top play, 7-6, and it was an 11 total. And just like I said, bunch of home runs. Loved who did I have? Shea Langoliers yesterday. Was it Shea? Yeah, I think it was Shea Langoliers in that game. The night before, I had Riley Green with a prop bet, and both paid off big time. So really, really enjoyed watching that. And then I was talking about the whole nickel and diming thing here when you get to certain games and you like the under and you're like, hey, no home runs are going to be nullified. It's not something we really have to worry about in this game. It's just a matter of can they string together base hits and things like that. Well, starting off the Cleveland game, Shane Baz came out and he he gave up a single, a double, second and third, and then he gets a strikeout. And then it was like single, I think pop fly or whatever. Maybe there was a sac fly in there somewhere. And then so it's 3-0 in the bottom of the first in a game that has a 7.5 total. And you're like, son of a bitch, I did all the work and this happened to me 2 days in a row and it's not working out. And then they proceed to put up zeros in every half inning the rest of the way and the game finished 3-0. But that's just sometimes what you're dealing with. Like you can do all the research you want and kind of get into it and goofy things happen. But it was a winning day. I hit my triple play. My one loss was the Orioles. Just like I thought, Kyle Bradish pitched amazing. He had 10 strikeouts with 80 pitches thrown or 81 pitches. That kid is he's going to be special. But the fact of the matter is, you look at the Orioles, the bats sucked. They couldn't hit with runners in scoring position. Frankly, they couldn't hit. Lucas Giolito was on one yesterday, and the Orioles bats did not show up. Now, so I was asked this by a few people of how I was going to do the podcast moving forward. Since I'm recording this Wednesday and this is a Thursday podcast for you guys, I'm going to start mixing in college football. And my game plan is on Fridays to kind of go over 4 college football games for the Lowdown on Saturday. Same thing when it applies for Sunday with football. Give out 4 games, kind of talk about it, give out 1 free play. I have a free college football play I'm going to give out today, talk a little about these teams, and I'll try to get in depth sometimes about what I see with the teams, returning players, their offenses. There's just a bunch of stuff to get into. Anyway, and then when football season rolls around, we'll do the same thing, 4 football games on Sunday. On Sundays, the podcast for Monday, I'll probably talk about Monday Night Football. I may give out a prop bet, but I'm always going to try to be giving out a few things here as we go by. And as I said with football, it makes it a lot easier to talk about it early. Now, during football season, my plan is I'm still going to do baseball. I'll kind of talk about, 1 or 2 here or there. And anybody, you can always message there on the podcast and ask a question about a game. And even though I'm just doing football, I will come back and post the MLB weather algorithm in the morning on all the podcasts in case that's something people look forward to seeing. If you've used it in your own handicapping or whatever, just kind of followed along and see how it was doing. But I'm going to try to keep this thing rolling, talk about a ton of games. And like today, I'm going to talk 3 baseball games, and then I'm going to give out a college football play. And it's not one, I didn't put it as a premium play. And the more and more I was talking about it to myself and researching, I was like, I think I should have made it a premium play. But we'll get into that. So I always like to tell you guys what I was looking at on the day of. So let me do that briefly. My favorite plays, for Wednesday was the Rays Guardians under. I went right back to it. I like the Detroit and I hate saying Sacramento, the Athletics, the Tigers and Athletics over. It was another great hitting situation there for them. The Phillies Mets under. We talked about some of these. They ended up being some of my favorite plays for the day. I like the Dream. I was big on Corey Seager, and I really liked Framber Valdez's over strikeouts. Two of the guys I talked about for props yesterday with K's, they both hit. It was 3 in one of my prop plays yesterday. And the other thing that I saw with this and just kind of going through it, my algorithm did not like Nick Lodolo against the Dodgers. So I did take under his strikeouts. And again, Corey Seager minus 125 over 1.5 bases. Yes, please, against Jack Kohanowitz. All right, let's get into the games for today. And we'll start it off with best weather situation of the day. Why hide it? Let's just get right into it. Yankees at the White Sox. You get Will Warren and Davis Martin. And to be fair to both of these guys, their numbers look very solid. I think Warren can be something, but more that middle to back end of the rotation. Davis Martin, I don't even know what to tell you with him. ERA looks good. Overall, the numbers look fairly good, but he's facing a Yankees team, and the wind's blowing out to right field at about 10 to 11 miles an hour in one of the stadiums that warrants the most home runs in the league. The White Sox Stadium for there, people used to talk about Coors all the time, but what was it, U.S. Cellular? I don't know what it's sponsored by now, but routinely, the most home runs hit in that stadium. But it's 70 degrees, wind's blowing out to right, 10 to 11 miles an hour. I'm going to take my chance with these White Sox bats who seem pesky, especially at home, and the Yankees bats against Davis Martin and that potential bullpen they could get to. With the wind blowing out and all the power that we see here, I mean, both teams have power. It's a couple spots you're going to look at in the White Sox lineup, but when you look at the Yankees lineup, there's a ton there. Would you rather see the wind blowing out the left with all the righty talent? Yeah, but I just think it's a great spot for an overplay, and I'm probably going to be on this game, just full disclosure. So it's like giving out another free play. Let's go to the Cubs at the Giants. 70 degrees, wind out to about 8 miles an hour. It's Shota Imanaga versus Logan Webb. I look at these spots. I like Shota so much better when he's pitching at home, but I'm not going to get away from what I'm seeing here, and I'm assuming we're going to have a total of around 7. Maybe it gets to 7.5. I'm taking the under at either one of those numbers. I'd be surprised if it was something different or even a little higher because, as I said plenty of times at the Giants Stadium, the wind blowing out, it doesn't matter as much as you think. You really need to see big numbers, like the numbers in the teens and getting up into the 20s, wind blowing out or in. Either way. But with the pitching matchup and the fact that it is going to be cooler in San Francisco yet again, these two guys can get a ton of ground balls. If they want to, they can get the strikeouts. I mean, we've seen Logan Webb. I mean, he's typically your, 4 strikeouts a game, 5 strikeouts a game guy. You'll see games where he gets a ton of ground balls and he's getting out of jams. I like this spot for an under here. That's where I'm going to lean. Now, with the Phillies and the Marlins and the Mets, the wind's blowing out at about 7 miles an hour. It's 74 degrees there. It's cool. Look, Citi Field, it's a big stadium. We have Jansen Junk and Clay Holmes going at each other here. I'm going to lean towards the under in this game. And I know some people are going to look at it and say, all right, wind's out. We've got 2 pitchers that, we probably could attack. I think Clay Holmes is good enough to keep this Miami Marlins lineup at bay. And I'll say the same thing with Jansen Junk. I don't think he's great. I think he's been okay. Can he limit damage with that big ballpark being a fly ball pitcher? Now, with college football, I'm going to talk about Boise State and South Florida. So Boise State's at South Florida. minus 5.5 points are the Broncos there. That would be the Boise State Broncos. 63.5 is the total. So just looking at what they're returning, because people are going to go, oh, Boise lost Jonty. What are they going to do without Ashton, right? No, they actually have a couple of young running backs, and they had somebody transfer in. Sire Gaines is the running back there, who I think has a good bit of home run ability. And when I say home run ability, talking about football, I mean taking it to the house. Maddox Madsen, the quarterback. I think when you're talking about having a returning quarterback and feeling safe with the hands that you're putting it in, he's going to run their offense. He's very familiar with it. The reason I'm getting to some of these offensive points that I want to talk about is I like the over in this game. So let me just say that in case I allude to it and get to some of the other points here in my notes. I think Sire Gaines is in for a big year, and they have a very, very good, probably the best wide receiver core of the Mountain West. So they are going to score points. Now, when you look at the spread, it's going to tell you, hey, it looks like it should be relatively close, 5.5. I'll tell you this about South Florida's defense. Very opportunistic last year, one of the top 10 teams in turnovers and forcing them. So you could say, it's hard to say if turnovers are negative or positive. It just matters where they happen on the field. And, it's kind of silly when you get into it and you think about it. It's like when you go to training camp and your defense picks off your offense and you start cheering. It's like, well, which one are we rooting for? Because turnovers are a great equalizer. It just matters where they happen. Taking points off the board, putting points on the board, you could see that. But Madsen takes care of the football. On the flip side, one of the things I want to bring up is if you're watching South Florida, they are replacing their running back, and we have to see what that running game is going to look like. The interesting thing was they had their starting quarterback from last year got an injury, went down. He's rehabbed. He's healthy. And the kid that replaced him came in and actually led them to a decent record and played well. So now are we going to see two quarterbacks? Are they making a decision? I haven't seen anything that said one way or another who they're going with. But my point is, when I look at it, Boise's going to score points. I think South Florida is not going to have an issue with Boise either, losing a couple of guys. I think this is a great overplay. And I think we see these teams move up and down the field, play fast. And, we've seen this in Boise State games. I mean, I know it had a lot to do with Ashton, but quick touchdown scores, that offense can really get it going. So my free play is going to be on the Boise State USF over the total of 63.5. So, guys, hope you enjoyed this. Definitely check out Pickdawgz.com, all the things we're offering over there. I got some premium plays up there. I got a bunch of stuff to take a look at. And one of the other points I want to make is I got something new that we're going to be doing. When we get down to it, and I was talking to a couple of guys there, we're going to get into, concrete inner circle is what we're going to do, where I'm going to rate more plays and do things over there. We'll get into it as the podcast goes on and tell you guys more about it, but it's just now starting out, and I love the fact that we're going to be doing this during football season because a ton of information out there. I'm going to try to bring you as much as I can. Hopefully it's useful. If not, I'm just glad you watched. So appreciate you guys. Pickdawgz.com. I'll see you tomorrow.